The Balkans, the southeast of Europe, Republic of Serbia, a small mountain village Zarozje, near the town Bajina Bašta, preserves the legend of a nocturnal visitor who regularly sowed fear in these parts. The mill on the Rogačica River tells the story of the millers who didn't manage to spend the night in it without losing their lives. Who, or rather, what was that being that took root in the dark stories of the locals? The forbidden love of two young people led a young man named Strahinja on a journey from his native village to the nearby village of Zarozje. The poor young man could not marry his love Radojka, who was the daughter of a village serf with a bad nature. When Strahinja came to Zarozje, he heard a gruesome story about a local mill in which not a single miller could spend a night in it without staying alive. Having nothing to lose, disappointed in love, he decides to dare to accept the job of a miller, since the local villagers could no longer find an employee to grind their grain. The night came when Strahinja had to spend the night in the creepy mill for the first time. He made a fire on the hot stone in the mill and made a human silhouette lying next to the fire, as if the man was sleeping. He hid in the attic with two rifles loaded with steel and old Ottoman money that could kill any bogey. Around midnight, a tall figure with a creepy red face entered the mill. Figure groped the flour, and when it saw a human silhouette, it excitedly walked towards, shouting, "Here's a good dinner for me." However, the figure discovers the fraud and says, "Hey, Sava Savanović, you've been a vampire for 90 years. And you never go without dinner until today." At that moment, the young man from the attic started shooting at the creepy figure, who quickly ran away. In the morning, the locals gathered around the mill to check if the young man had survived. When they saw that the young man had survived, the astonished villagers heard his story and went in search of the grave of Sava Savanović, who in anger revealed his identity. Having learned from the oldest member of the village community where Sava was buried, they prepared everything they needed to kill the vampire. Sanctified Epiphany water, a stake made of black hawthorn, and one crow horse without a mark. After a long search, they found and dug up the grave where Sava was lying, as if he had been buried yesterday. His face was red and bloated with blood. One of his eyes was open, and two wounds from a gunshot on his body were healed. They pierced his body with a hawthorn stake in the middle of the belly, but they didn't manage to pour the holy water on his mouth, but only partially on his face, and a butterfly flew out of his mouth. The local priest, who went on a search with the locals, recited a prayer and buried the body with stones and hawthorn thorns from above. In gratitude to Strahinja, their hero, the villagers kidnapped young girl Radojka from the neighboring village and arranged a wedding for these two young people in love. Many believe that this is just a fictional story after the Serbian writer Milovan Glišić published the short story after 19 years from 1880, as well as the screen adaptation of this work with the first Yugoslav horror movie Butterfly from 1973, directed by Djordje Kadijević. However, all this would remain in the sphere of a good horror story if the inhabitants of Zarozje did not claim that their ancestors told them about the true character of Sava Savanović, who really lived in this village. According to their stories, he lived alone and traded cattle. When he gave up trade due to competition, he changed his job and became a miller in the village mill. As the elders say, he became a vampire just a few days after he was buried. As a testimony of this story, only a ruined, abandoned mill remained. Do vampires really exist? Who knows? Maybe this story covers the truth.